Three, two, one.
Well, good morning. It'll be good morning for y'all. It's not good morning for me. This is none of those Back to the Future things, so I'm actually recording this ahead of time. I'm leaving out tomorrow. It's Friday, leaving out Saturday, headed towards Oklahoma. Going to be working there all week, so wanted to get one in the can here. Sorry about the last one. I was a little bit under the weather. I'm on the tail end of it now. So anyway, we're going to start this series of doing a overhead 5S sight, and this is the first of those, and then we'll complete the last two of those coming up. We'll get those in the can because I got a fairly crazy March, so we'll get those in the can for you. We also we got a lot of things that JP is going to be sending out here soon, so kind of keep your eyes peeled on the on our website because we've got some new stuff coming out. So you'll be seeing that upcoming at some of the meter schools. So he's going to be sending stuff out on the right, JP?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So we got new stuff coming out, and it will be he'll put it out like he always does. So you'll be able to look for it when you go to Auburn's coming up, and then of course we have Mid-South, and then in May, and then in June we have North Carolina. So you can check it out on some new products and stuff we have coming out. I wanted to, like I always do, like I said, I apologize for the voice a little bit if it croaks a little bit on me, but we should be fine. It's funny that if you, the news, you look at the news and they may tell you that everything's fine, but I know one thing, there's still a lot of people sick for different things. It may not be the Chinese crud, but I had the crud, and my doctor actually said that there's symptoms around here that people have that are worse than COVID. So there's stuff going around. So as always, it's been that way for a while. I want to lift up folks in prayer that are sick. I've got some folks right now also that have recently lost loved ones. So I want to lift those folks up. And so we'll start out with a prayer and then we'll get rolling. So, Father, what a privilege it is to come to you right now. And if your son hadn't died on that cross, I couldn't. What an unbelievable gift that you gave us in him, his life and his death, and most importantly, his resurrection. So, Father, now I can come to you and ask, right now it just seems like all the sickness that's going around, and it seems like everybody seems to be on edge, or unfortunately a lot of people have pulled off and just they've kind of desocialized, and that's affecting them mentally, and there's just a lot going on right now, Lord. And we also look at politics and all that yucky stuff, but in the midst of all of it, it really boils down to those basic things: loving one another, and it's like you tell us, love God, love others, and love yourself. So that's really what this is about, loving you, and if we do that, it makes us want to love others, and we come alongside one another, we pray for one another, we lift one another up, and we're there for them when we need them, and so. Father, we just thank you so much for the privilege and the process you gave us with your son dying on that cross, and then also loving ourselves. And some days that's awful difficult in these times because, as I said, we may be just holed up, or we're just irritable and on edge because all we hear about's bad news. But there is the good news, and the good news is that believing in you and having faith in you, we know in the long run where we'll be spending eternity, and that's in heaven. So. Father, thank you so much for that unbelievable privilege, that unbelievable grace and mercy that you show us as sinners and goofballs like I am. And just, Father, thank you just so much for doing that for us. And lift all those folks out there that are now putting themselves in harm's way for others, those type of jobs where they risk themselves to help others. And that's what our industry really is. And so that's what people in our industry do every single day. So just be with them, Father, and their families, and just that's what really all this is about. And I'm just so privileged to be a part of this, all the work that JP has done on this, and all the other folks like our meter techs out there, and Bryland, and also Jonathan, and the fact that it may keep someone from getting in trouble out there, and may help someone do their job better, but more importantly, get them home safe to their families. So that's the most important thing in all this work, Lord, is just getting home safe to your family. So thank you for that privilege of working with these fine folks and putting this stuff out there. And again, thank you for what your son did. So all of these things I ask and say, according to the will of the one who paid it all, my brother, Jesus Christ. Amen. Cool. All right, so on the agenda today, we're going to do a site inspection, a meter assessment, and then we're going to get the test equipment set up. and we're going to go through that pre-test stuff. And that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit, because in this one I noticed when JP and I just went through it real quick, I didn't talk enough about the pre-test stuff, and that might be in the next one. I haven't seen that part of it yet. There's 2 more after this. There's going to be 3 total, but just in case, I will talk about that some. But we're going to do that pre-test stuff, and which is, as I said, it's so important letting you know, because you'll discover some problems pre-test that once you're in the testing mode and go through the testing process. Once you start into that with the equipment, you can't. Those options aren't available, and we talk about that all the time. So I'll say a little bit about that. But so this is going to be a 5S. This was in this was just a row of buildings of a lot of different manufacturing and storage, but mostly manufacturing and shipping, that sort of stuff. So we're between 2 buildings right there. So you'll hear noise in the background. There's stuff going on. But JP did a great job of drowning that out. And so we're in between some of these buildings there. And like I said, it's just a long row of these buildings. And we've got a 5S overhead there. And you'll see how we identified that and looked at the test switch and figured everything out like we always do before we get started. So we'll roll it and get started. Thanks.
So here we are at our second site. And if you look up there, up the top of the pole up there, you can see we've got 3 pots up there, 3 transformers, right? So we got 3 transformers. But if you'll notice, the one transformer only has a jumper over to the other transformers, and we're hoping that we can maybe do a green screen where I can really point this out behind there, but just in case we can't, you can notice that.
So that was me opening my mouth and saying that we're going to do green screens and all this stuff. Where do I need to be? Am I
close to the TV?
Go close to the TV?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, I was sitting there going, we're going to do green screens and we're going to do all this stuff. But anyway, so, and I love it when, as we were just watching it, JP just kind of looked at me and grinned, and I was like, yeah, I was kind of overloading my mouth, overloading my butt a little bit. But anyway, we didn't do a green screen, but I think you'll see everything you need to see.
Simple solutions, John.
Yes, sorry. Simple solutions to complex problems.
Over here to the right, I've got 2. Here are the 2 transformers we're running through the CTs. You see the CTs down the pole right here. We're actually running, coming out of these 2 transformers is where we're running through the CTs. So we can see that one of the transformers is not being run through the CTs. So we can see that we've actually got 3 currents for only 2 voltages up there. Okay, so here's the thing. If you look up there and notice that you've got those, if you follow over here to this building over here to the left though, we have something that's being fed out of the transformers, but it's not going through.
Just to clarify,
Go ahead.
just to clarify, I just heard myself say 2 voltages. No, we've got 3 voltages and we've only got 2 currents. So I just said that incorrectly. So I just want to clarify that. Okay.
The CTs. You can see it's coming over here to this building, and so they've got a self-contained over this way. Okay, so they got a 2S self-contained here, and then our transformer rated meters here at the bottom of the pole, and that's where we're being fed from the 2 CTs up here. Okay, so we can already probably guess what kind of a service we've got, but when Brown and I go up here and do our actual examination and everything and do our top to bottom, or actually he does bottom to top, top to bottom rather, I had it right the first time. He's going to do a top to bottom evaluation of this thing, then we'll actually determine exactly what service it is in the meter and everything. But we kind of got to guess already of what it is because of looking at those transformers up there, okay? Okay, so here at the second site, Brown and I are going to do another examination of the site, examine the pole and just overall view of everything. So tell me what you see, big boy.
So far, everything's looking fairly decent. Ground over here looks like it's pretty good. Connections and everything are good going up the pole there.
Ground looks pretty solid. Everything's connected up here good.
Not too bad.
Nope.
Up here on the pole, it's a little clustered up a little bit.
Yeah, it is a little busy up there, isn't it? And nobody ever considers us testers, do they, when they put that stuff up there? They never do. So it's like it's their hearts. You can see it's a little busy, and once again, we got the stuff coming out of the weatherhead could be tied up a little bit better, right? I would say. But so I'm looking at 2 CTs, right? I'm dealing with, right? Okay, so I got my 2 CTs, I got my 3 transformers. So if I'm guessing probably, I got probably A and C over here, but let's take a look at the meter and see what we got. How does the switch look?
Not bad.
No. Not as bad as the last one, but it's looks like in this part of the country you just got a lot of corrosion to deal with all the time. So it's always going to be corrosion. Corrosion's always going to be a problem for us. And corrosion affects us in a lot of ways as meter techs. So it affects us not only the operation of the stuff, because if you're having to pull on these things a lot more than you normally have to do or shove them in harder, that's never a good thing, to be honest. But especially also when losses are trying to do the testing, because I get too much corrosion, it can see that as what we talked about earlier, waveform generator error on, or anybody's equipment to say, I don't have a good path, okay? I need to have good paths with all this. So right now you got a lot of corrosion on there, but we can see what's going on. So what would be the layout? If you're looking at this thing, Browlin, how would you lay out what's what, voltages, currents, and what's going on here?
All right, so right here you're going to have your A voltage, and you're going to go B voltage, then C voltage.
Right.
Then for your currents, you're going to have A current, C current.
Right.
This is a 5S meter form, so you're going to have A and C, the delta. So.
Right. And you got that off of, you saw the 5S right over here.
Yes.
5S in the upper left. Then up here on the display down the bottom right hand like we looked at last time, now you see a little delta where there was a Y before. But what's our voltage here?
240 is what we got.
That's right. So when it shows you that, it's showing your secondary, right? So it's showing, like before it showed 120Y, this one's showing 240 delta. So this is going to be a 240 480 delta, right? Okay, so there's my display screen, so I go to my display screen like we said before, which helps us to determine whether it's a Y or a delta. Also my secondary voltage, and off of that I can figure out what system I'm dealing with. Then on the left-hand side I look over there, and that's where I pick up which meter form this is, which in this case it's 5S. Okay? And once again, we are dealing with a Landison gear, right? So we know we're going to have to open her up to get pulses out of it. We learned that on the last one, right? So yeah, looking at this, so you've got, looking across here, I've got just what he was exactly right. Brown said we got A, B, and C voltages, right? So then I got my A, and I got my shunt, right? My shunt blade. And then I've got we always know we can always short stroke. That short stroke blade is going to be my shunt blade, right? And then my long one is always going to be that's my return, because it's got the place for me to put my duckbill in there. And it's the long stroke blade. So remember, we always talk about that when we're doing those phantom load tests. You always got to get around that long handle at the bottom and then come up to the top where it's coming in on my shunt. So I'll go from bottom of the return to top of the shunt. We always talk about the long stroke blade's always my return blade, okay? So once I find that, and they're paired up here for me, we also remember, we've talked about this in the webinars, that my phenolic barriers are always going to be between my voltages to separate my voltages, right? So I can see I got a voltage here, phenolic. So Browlin looked at that and said, I know where my voltages are because I got voltage, 2 phenolics, the one in between's got to be a voltage, 2 phenolics in between's going to be my other voltage. So I got A, B, and C right here, right? And then I've got A, B, and C on my CTs, but I've got nothing connected over here on B, right? There's nothing on B because this is a delta, so I'm just on A and C phases, okay? So I kind of got her figured out now. I'm way over here to my right, it's my neutral, so I got I've got my A voltage, A current, B voltage, B current, C voltage, C currents, okay? And when we look at it here in a minute, it's going to show me where to make my connections, and we're just going to be on A and C phases, all right, for my currents right there, because I don't have anything on B phase, all right? So all that looks okay. So we've determined it's a 5S delta, 240 480 volt, and which matches up with what we got up here. So if you were looking up there, what would you say probably these 2 pots over here are what phases? Got to be A and C, right? Because this one over here doesn't have anything. And I'm guessing from what you probably got lighting on this one over here, just on this one over here, this one by itself. So I'm saying you probably got some lighting coming off of that one. But you can see you got, and hopefully, like I said, we can see this before. This one closest to us right here, I've got 120 and 120 on those 2 taps. And over on this other one's, okay, I got my 240. So, all right, cool. So let's just go ahead and get into it. This is also overhead, so we're going to be using the high volt probe again.
So, so notice now, this is a. Okay, so this one,
Yes.
this one. Okay.
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1. So this one, please don't edit that out. So
I don't think anything.
I know. I got him earlier today, so I'm dog meat now. I know that. Okay. So notice what he has in his hand. The first thing we always connect is the neutral. For safety's sake, we always connect the neutral first on our voltages, okay? And then you're going to notice here in a minute, and I don't say it, but he is going to coin those surfaces. He's going to get on the blades with the teeth on that alligator clip instead of grabbing on the ends, because we've talked about this a lot. You can break those end teeth off, and then you don't have a good connection, and you're getting low secondary voltage input. You know, wow, I don't have voltage. And you're looking and saying, they're all attached, but you've broken the teeth off the end of it. So we get on the blades. He's going to coin that surface. He's going to work that alligator clip back and forth on each one of them, all right? He's also, if he flips the handle to the side, you're going to see he does that. It keeps the long stroke blade of the currents from knocking your voltages off. Now, I've kind of changed up a little bit the way that I do stuff over the years, and I can tell you there's two schools of thought. Some people connect voltages first, some people connect currents first. Honestly, if you connect the currents first, then you don't have to worry about the alligator clips getting knocked off, obviously. But if you're going to connect your voltages first, and it's just a habit you get into, I recommend you slant them down just a little bit, right? You're going to lean them down just a little bit to help with that short stroke shunt blade. But also, that's the side you want the handle on. If you have the handle turned the other way, when you get to B and C phases on down the test switch, A, it won't bother you, but B and C, if you put the voltages on first, you'll open up that long stroke return blade where you're going to put your duckbill in, boom, and you'll knock those dadgum alligator clips off and have to put them back on. So watch how he turns the handle to the side. The handle's always on the shunt side, the short stroke. And for me, I lean it down a little bit, get a little angle on it. I work it back and forth, and then that way when I open that shunt blade, it does not knock them off. Or I'll put my alligator clips in first. But anyway, it's just those little details of it, right, that just keeps you from having to sit there and put them back on, pain in the neck, because it always happens to me when it's 95 and a swarm of mosquitoes or gnats around my head or something is when I have a problem. So I'm just saying, he's going to coin the surfaces. He's always starting with his neutral first. But notice he even coins and works those duckbills a little bit, okay? Corrosive area, but once you get in that habit, it's just a good habit to be in. It doesn't necessarily have to be. You don't have to be, down on some coast somewhere. You could be next to a big manure plant, or a big chicken plant. And that corrosion coming off that will absolutely, the heat and everything of that electricity there attracts that stuff, all right? So it is going to become, it's like a self-defeating little deal, and it just gets worse and worse and worse, okay? Nice and warm, brings all the bugs in, the ants like to be there. So why not just go ahead, coin the surfaces where you can, and kind of look the test switch over. We looked it over. If you need to, obviously, you've seen this before, you do some cleaning on it. And you got to clean on that son of a gun a little bit. If it's that bad, the machine will give you a waveform generator error. If it sends out VA and doesn't get good VA back, it's going to say timeout. I think you might have an open connection or something, or a loose connection. Well, not open, but a loose connection here, so that I don't want someone leaning against a can and turn on a load box and somebody getting hurt, or I don't want to damage the load box by trying to drive into something I don't have a good connection on. It's going to cause, obviously, more power to be absorbed, all right? So that's, watch how he puts these on. Starts with the neutral that's in his hand now, and then I don't care if you go red, yellow, blue, or blue, yellow, red, but just go ABC, CBA, but get in the habit of doing it the same way, but always start with that neutral on first, and always the neutral comes off last.
Using the horseshoe. Remember the way Brownland does that, which is smart, puts that handle on that alligator clip over here on this side so that the long stroke blade isn't the one hitting it, okay?
So to what I was saying a second ago, you can see for this test switch, since I have my shunt here and then I have my return, this is the long one, right? So this is going to open up the long one. See how Brown has turned the handle here to the right, so the short stroke blade's here, and if you lean it down just a little bit, when you open the shunt up, if you do put your voltages on first, it won't knock that off. If he had turned it the other way and the handle was over here on the left side, when he opened up the B phase, when he opened up that return, he would knock that alligator clip off, okay? So that's why I'm saying he turns it handle to the right when you have this type of test switch where I have voltage in the two currents. So I have voltage to current, voltage to current, voltage to current. You can see there, short stroke will not knock it off. If that was the shunt blade, you open it up, it would hit that handle and knock it off. So he turns over here, of course it doesn't matter, but when he gets on B and C phase, he turns it to the right and turns it to the right.
So safe to say, looking the way he's got it connected up, we've got, remember our alligator clips are our voltages, so we got 3 voltages and 2 currents, right? Yep. That'd be a delta. Cool.
So we will, from here, we're going to do our pre-test stuff, and we'll go into that. I think we talked more and more about it as we went along in this through all these sites. This only being number 2, so if we didn't talk about it as much in this one, I'll get JP to stop and I'll talk about it more in the second and third installments of this. But we're going to do our pre-check. But pretty much we've determined now. Remember, you look up there and you see one transformer is larger than the other 2, so I know it's a delta plus everything on the face of that display tells us so much, right? Upper left, the form, bottom right on the display, actually that's on the label, bottom right on the display will tell you the type of service, delta or Y. It'll tell you the secondary voltage on there, so you'll know in this case it was a delta 240, so I knew it was a 240 480. So you can learn a lot from that, right? And then we know it being a Landison gear, you have to open up one of the voltages, right, to get the pulses to start being emitted. And I keep in my P brain, you know, AB. So if it's the black one, the newer ones, then it's A phase. And then I got GC. So it's if it's a gray one, then you have to open up C phase. So we're going to go through all that stuff coming up. Upcoming, so it'll be on March 1st, we will have the second installment of this, and on March 8th, the third installment. And we will complete this one. So it's going to be three webinars, and we'll complete the overhead 5S site. We really appreciate all of the feedback. Looking forward coming up to seeing everybody at the Auburn Meter School. Stop by. We're going to have the training bench there, so if you want any individual training, please come by. We will have the training bench in one of our rooms. Suzanne's given us a room there, so if you want to come in and get some specialized training, this is the perfect time. If you're at the Auburn Meter School, grab your text or whatever and just come on in there and say, hey, can you show me this or that or the other, and we can hit you with a lot of different air scenarios, and we'll have a room there where we can actually you can get some one-on-one training. So, and also we're going to be working with George Power there doing some of their training. So looking forward to it, looking forward to seeing everybody there. So I'm going to head out in the morning and start heading west. So wish me good luck or pray for me as far as the weather. There was always the big joke with me. I've always been on the road since I was little, and I can tell you that they always just say, if you want to know where the bad weather is, just follow John. So it's going to be 14 and 16 degrees in Oklahoma. So even though it's it's cooler here this time of year, and we've got a little cooler winter we've had in a long time, it's still going to be warmer than where I'm going. So anyway, thank you so much for watching us. Thank you so much for the feedback, and most importantly, be careful out there. All right, everybody. We want everybody getting home to their families. So God bless and be careful. Thank y'all.